If you've recently been diagnosed with flat back syndrome, you may already be dealing with lower back stiffness, tightness, and pain. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple plan of exercises that you can do to manage this condition and hopefully keep it from getting any worse. Welcome to Fitness Integrated Science. I'm Lauren Irk, and I'm a muscle activation technique specialist as well as a certified yoga therapist. What is a flat back syndrome? This is basically a straightening out of the spinal curves either due to hereditary issues, or maybe you've just done a lot of repetitive activities or not done a lot of repetitive activities that has caused the muscles around your spine to become weaker, and now your bones have changed. Now, when we start to flatten out, what we notice is that the pelvis will start to tuck under, the shoulders will start to round because it really does start to straighten that upper thoracic spine, and you'll notice the head coming forward. This tucking under of the pelvis is the hallmark of this condition. And what this causes is definitely pain in the lower back because our forces are not being distributed correctly. And then we also start to notice that the knees become a little bit bent. People that have this syndrome typically complain about things like tight hamstrings, lower back pain, feeling stiff. So what can we do? How can we make this better? I'm going to show you 5 exercises. For the first exercise, I'm actually going to use a stability ball. Now, the one thing that I like about the stability ball is that it moves, and that's what we need. Now, if you look at the skeleton, just to sort of see what I'm getting ready to do, this is a normal, healthy spine. So if I'm sitting on the ball and I start to tilt my pelvis back, and you see that curve in my lower back, this is that normal lordotic curve. However, with a flat back syndrome, that curve starts to become more straight, and you can see that it throws the whole spine forward. So what I want to do is I want to invite you to explore those 2 positions. So let's tuck under just like the skeleton, and you can see that when I tuck under, the pelvis is tilting back, the tailbone is going forward, and I'm feeling my abdominal muscles. Now as I start to put that curve back in it, here's what I'm trying to do. You can see how my pelvis moved. My tailbone went back, and I increased that curve in my lower back. So let's try that again. As we tuck under, which is called a posterior pelvic tilt, pelvis is tucking under, abs are tightening, then I'm going back into that anterior pelvic tilt. Now, if you have a really significant flat lower back, you may think to yourself, I can't bring my legs back. And I've seen that happen with my clients. So I want you to go to wherever you can. And if you put your hand back here and you start to feel muscles in your lower back, you're probably doing as much as you can. Now, I want you to do, as you go forward, instead of just allowing yourself to collapse, I want you to tighten your abs. When you go back, I want you to tighten your lower back. I also want you to notice what's happening right across your hip flexors. Now, doing this in the beginning may feel impossible, but if you do this over a period of time, what you're going to notice is that your mobility will improve over time. It may not be perfect, but it will improve. So I highly recommend a seated mobility exercise. Now, for my second exercise, you might want to grab a chair. I'm just going to stay on the ball just to make it easy, but a chair is going to be much less unstable than sitting on a ball. So I want you to bring your shoulders into your back, keep your abdominals tight, and keep your chest lifted. From here, we just start by picking up one leg off the floor and putting it down. The reason we're doing this is to strengthen our hip flexor muscles. If we want to move into more of an anterior tilt, which is that low back, sway back, getting our lordotic curve to return, we have to have strong hip flexors. This is one of the reasons why your hamstrings feel so tight. It's because your hip flexors have gotten weak over time from this condition. So if you want to, you can start off kind of slow. You can even move into sort of a march. Maybe eventually get to the place where you can hold this for a few seconds, working on the endurance of the muscle, more like an isometric. Now this knee lift is going to turn into the exercise called the seated squat. Shifting your body weight forward, either from a chair or from a ball. Think about just barely raising your body weight off of the chair. And you're going to notice your quadricep muscles and your hip flexor muscles start to engage. If you want to reach your arms out in front as a counterbalance, then as you exhale, sit it back down. This may feel really challenging in the beginning because, again, having a flat back syndrome situation going on, this is a challenging position to get into. You may notice that it's difficult, has become difficult to get up and out of a chair. You may even have to grab a table or another chair in front of you to be able to perform this exercise. But this is accomplishing a lot considering the fact that not only am I getting my hip flexor muscles stronger, I'm also putting some tension in my lower back. Two places that we absolutely need. Now, for my third exercise, this is in physical therapy called the long sit. In yoga, it's called Dandasana, or the staff pose. So what I want you to do again, have a seat on a chair or a couple of blankets. I'm going to just stay on the ball for now. I want you to extend both of your legs out in front of you. Take your yoga strap, if you don't have a strap, any kind of a belt will do, and wrap that around the bottoms of your feet. Now, when you pull that strap through the bottoms of your feet lightly, what you immediately notice is that it brings your attention into your mid-thoracic spine. That's right here in that lower back, and it causes your chest to lift, your shoulders to drop, and you're feeling a lot more tension. Now, using the surface you're sitting on, I'm using this ball, I want you to push your legs down into that surface and do everything you can to tighten muscles around your knee as well as your hip. So this area again is crucial for getting some strength into that lower back and helping to improve the curvature of that region. Now when you're here, don't put a death grip on it. It's a very light little bit of pressure. Work on holding this isometric anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, and then when you're done, just bend your knees and release. Now you know you have not pushed too hard when you can actually go in and do another one. Now there are a lot of people out there that think an isometric needs to be really, really hard, and depending on your goal, it can be. But for right now, we're working on activation of the quadriceps and the lower back, so I want your pressure to be light. Holding this here, just tightening into the fronts of your legs, and then exhale, release it. Now, what I would suggest as we work our way down to the floor, take a half ball, if you have a half ball at home, or a couple of pillows to where maybe I'm only this high off the floor. Try a couple there. Over time, what you may be able to do is you may be able to sit directly on the ground, which is for a lot of people almost impossible, especially if you have more of a flat back. So again, tilting your pelvis up on a couple of blankets may help. Also, you can bend your knees in this position over time, working on getting your legs straight. This is a much more stable position because I'm very lightly pulling that strap through the feet, bringing the shoulder blades into the back and drawing the shoulders down. Holding that again anywhere from 8 to 10 seconds, and then finally releasing that out. Now, for my fourth exercise, it's going to be the quadruped. The quadruped is the bird dog exercise. This is a wonderful spinal stabilization exercise, and the nice thing about this, it doesn't require me to have to go into a lot of spinal extension. So as we go down into all fours, let's just practice the same thing that we did on the ball. For instance, I'm tucking under, which is where we like to be, then allowing that waistline to drop down to untuck, or coming into that anterior pelvic tilt. Great place to work on that right here. Once we find neutral, which is going to be somewhere in between those two, our job is to hold that. Now, tightening the abdominal muscles, practice raising one knee off the floor, feeling that tension move into the lower back, lower down, and then change sides. And you may notice immediately that one side of your body is a lot stronger than the other. As you do get stronger, picking up one knee, you can pick up the opposite hand, which is going to build a lot of the muscles and how they sit in the back of your body. From there, we can start to move our hand and our knee away from the midline, assuming that we can maintain our spinal position. In other words, the distance from the rib cage to the hips in the front as well as in the back doesn't change. So we're having to really focus on tightening up into our abdominals as well as our lower back. And you can see as I'm doing this, I can get to where I am fully flexed at my shoulder, fully extended at my hip, going for those long levers, which is going to put more stress on the spine. What we want to do this for is to strengthen our postural muscles to encourage our spinal curvature. This can be a very therapeutic exercise for flat back syndrome. Now, for my last exercise, I want to go over the backward bend. Have you ever been told, someone with a flat back, to come down onto the ground and try to do a backward bend? You see the floor has already maxed you out. As a matter of fact, you may not even feel comfortable down here. If I'm starting from way down there, coming up may feel like, what? I can't come up at all. And I've actually seen clients do this and had this lesson handed to me on more than one occasion. So what we have to do is we have to build the floor up underneath so that we can actually start from below the floor. This is another one I'm going to give to the stability ball. Hands down, the best place to do backward bends, especially if you're dealing with a flat back syndrome. Bring the ball all the way up against your legs, tighten your abdominal muscles, drape your body over the ball. And I'm just going to start off with a base position. Make sure that your knees are fairly wide so that you have a nice wide base of support. And guess what? I get to go back into my tucked position, my posterior pelvic tilt that is the hallmark of the flat back syndrome, so that I can hold the ball steady. So right away I felt pretty comfortable. But here's the part that gets fun. As I start to move into the exercise, look at the range of motion that I can now go through before I ever achieve my neutral. Then over time I may be able to go beyond neutral depending on where my spinal column is. But even if I just get to here, I already have resistance going into this part of the back. This can be extremely therapeutic, especially if you're already dealing with spinal changes. Now, as you get stronger, the nice thing about ball training is I can position my hips higher on the ball. So now with my knees off the floor, and you may need to prop your feet up against something, you can see that I am really draped forward over the ball. So keeping my chin tucked, I just work on extending the crown of the head out in front of me. And look, here I am in that nice flat back. I'm accomplishing strengthening in my lumbar spine, and I'm not putting stress on the intervertebral discs. You can also add arm changes like so. You can add rotations and all those things. So just as a summary of the 5 exercises that I recommend, number 1, I would recommend ball seated mobility. I would recommend seated squats, starting with knee lifts, moving into seated squats. The 3rd exercise is the L-sit, going from a sitting position in a chair and moving down to the floor eventually. The 4th exercise is the bird dog spinal stabilization exercise. And the last one, prone over ball trunk extension. I hope this video helps you. And if you do these exercises on a regular basis, you're going to notice that the symptoms that you're currently dealing with the flat back syndrome, they're going to get better. Your spinal column may actually improve, and maybe even we can say it is not get any worse, which is actually, if you think about it, progression. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and make sure to share it with anybody that you know that I can help. Also, make sure that you're subscribed so that you never miss a video. If you'd like more information about long exercise programs that deal with this types of things that you can do on a regular basis, I do have a platform called Fitness Integrated Science TV. There is a link below. And finally, if you have specific questions, leave them in the comments so that I can reach out to you personally. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.